I am making a volcanic deck profile since I finally managed to get everything for it. And overall, I really like the playstyle. That does remind me a lot of Trickstar. Just because a lot of burn damage. But overall, I honestly enjoyed the deck. Which there is one thing I want to change, but I can't remember the card's name. But I'll go over it when I get to it. Starting with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Volcanic Shell. Volcanic Shell has the effect that while it's in the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to add another Volcanic Shell from your deck to your hand. And you can only use that. Or you can only use that effect once per copy. So if you have one in grave, you can pay 500 to add another one, and if that one you add gets sent to the graveyard, you can pay another 500 to add the third. The only downside is it has to stay in your graveyard to be able to add. So worst case scenario, your opponent goes DD Crow on it, and you paid 500 life points for nothing. Then I also play 3 copies of Volcanic Rimfire. Rimfire has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can activate one of its effects, where you can banish this card from your graveyard to then be able to send another volcanic monster from your deck to the grave. Except for another Rimfire. And then you can banish a Blaze Accelerator that's face up on your field or graveyard. So then take a Blaze Accelerator, continue a Star Trap that's in your deck, and place it face up on your field. And then I play 3 copies of Volcanic Scattershot. Scattershot lets you banish 5. It lets you inflict 500 points of damage when sent to the graveyard. And then if it was sent to the graveyard by the effect of a Blaze Accelerator, you can send 2 more Volcanic Scattershots from your deck to the graveyard. Or my bad. You can send 2 more from your hand or deck to the grave to then destroy all monsters your opponent controls, which would then trigger the other 2 Scattershots to inflict 1,000 damage. And then I play 3 copies of Volcanic Trooper. Trooper has the effect that when it's normal or special summoned, you can add a volcanic monster? You can add a volcanic card from your deck to your hand except for another Trooper. And then once per turn you can discard a card, special summon 1 bomb token to your opponent's field. And then bomb tokens just have the effect that when they're destroyed, the controller takes 500 damage. So normally you would flood your opponent's field with bomb tokens, activate Scattershot's effect, destroy the tokens, and inflict 500 per token. Then I also play 3 copies of Royal Firestorm Guards. This monster is basically just Pot of Avarice for Pyro monsters specifically, where you target 4 Pyros in grave, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 2 cards. The only downside is that if your opponent does have something like DD Crow, they can banish one of the targets and its effect will not resolve. I also play 3 copies of Volcanic Rocket. Volcanic Rocket has the effect that when it's summoned, you can add a Blaze Accelerator from your deck to your hand. Which, based on that effect alone, I figured it was worth it to play 3. I also play 1 copy of Volcanic Doomfire and 2 copies of Volcanic Emperor. Volcanic Doomfire has the effect where it cannot be normal summoned set and must first be special summoned from your hand by sending a Tri-Blaze Accelerator you control to the graveyard. During your opponent's battle phase, all attack monsters your opponent control that can attack must attack this card. And then, if this card destroys a monster in battle and sends it to the graveyard, destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. If you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed by this effect. I just like it because it's a way to force your opponent's monsters into battling it, and if they don't attack with something just as big, if not bigger, then they just lose everything and take a lot of damage. And then Volcanic Emperor cannot be normal summoned or set and must first be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by banishing 3 Pyro monsters or a Blaze Accelerator card from your face-up field and or graveyard. And then you can only special summon Volcanic Emperor once per turn. And then After that, it has another effect where when this card is summoned this way, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each banished pyro monster. Then you can set a volcanic trap directly from your deck. Each time your opponent special summons a monster, they take 500 damage. So I just like this because the more kind of swarming your opponent does, the more damage they'll take. And I've actually had a couple games where Volcanic Emperor by itself has actually won me games just because my opponent kept swarming the board because I kept also interrupting and destroying things, which I thought was kind of funny. The Volcanic Emperor's effect of burning for every time your opponent special summons can just come... It may seem like nothing at first, but later on it can be a problem. Which is why I love Volcanic Emperor so much. Then for the spells, I play 3 copies of Blaze Accelerator. Blaze Accelerator, if I can have my mouth work, lets you target one monster your opponent controls to then be able to send a pyro monster with 500 less attack from your hand to the graveyard to then destroy that targeted monster. However, if you use this effect, then you cannot attack, or monsters you control can't attack. I apologize, I worded that wrong. You just can't attack with your monsters that turn. So you can use it to destroy a card, however, it will take away your battle phase. But you really don't need your battle phase because you're just going to constantly be inflicting damage through your card effects. Then I also play 1 copy of Tri-Blaze Accelerator. This card can be activated by sending a Blaze Accelerator to the grave. It faces up Blaze Accelerator control, so it has to be this one. Or this Blaze Accelerator, I should say. But it has the effect that during your main phase, you can target a monster your opponent controls, send a pyro monster from your hand to the graveyard if you destroy that target, and if you do, you then inflict 500 damage to your opponent. And then your monsters can't attack that turn. So basically, it's just does the same as Blaze Accelerator, but also inflicts 500 points of damage. But I also play as a 1-up so that I can play the Volcanic Doomfire. Because I honestly really like the card. So this probably isn't the best build, but I honestly like it, so figure why not. Then I play 3 copies of Volcanic Blaze Accelerator. This card can only be activated by sending a Blaze Accelerator you control to the graveyard. My bad. It's sending a Blaze Accelerator from your hand, deck, or graveyard, or hand, deck, or face-up field to grave. I cannot word, I'm sorry. Anyway, it has the effect that once per turn, or you can only control 1 Blaze Accelerator, and then once per turn... Where is I lost where I was at. During your main phase, you can special summon a Volcanic monster from your hand. And then also once per turn, you target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, send a level 1 pyro from your deck to the grave, and if you do, destroy that monster. This card honestly is a very major consistency boost for this deck that I've seen, as you can just summon Volcanic Rocket, then Rocket adds your Blaze Accelerator, Tri-Blaze Accelerator, or just Blaze Accelerator reload from your deck to your hand. Or I can summon a Troopers, which lets you add any Volcanic monster, which I just like the card. Then I also play 3 copies of Fire Ejection. This lets you send a Pyro monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then has 2 effects you can use depending on whether or not it was a Volcanic. Which, if you send a non-Volcanic, then you can't use either effect. But if you send a Volcanic, then you can either inflict damage to your opponent equal to the level that monster had times 100, or you can special summon a bomb token to your opponent's field. Which, again, bomb tokens inflict 500 damage to their controller when they're destroyed. And then to finish off the spells, I play 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, just because hand traps exist, and your opponent going first, well, for me at least, is almost certain. So, figure why not play this so that when your opponent does a thing or activates a monster effect during your main phase, you can take control of a monster they control, draw 2 cards, or look at your opponent's hand and put it back in the deck. Anyway, for the traps, I play 1 copy of Blaze Accelerator Reloaded. Reloaded has the effect that its name becomes Tri-Blaze Accelerator. I don't know why I keep trying to say Braze. But it becomes Tri-Blaze Accelerator while it's in the spawn trap zone. During your main phase, send a volcanic spell or trap. You send a volcanic card from your field or hand to a graveyard. I apologize, my mouth isn't working. You send a volcanic card from your hand to the graveyard to then be able to draw one card. You can only use that effect once per turn. During the main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to then send a volcanic monster from your deck to the graveyard. I play it just as a one-of because it's searchable. You can place it face up from deck. It's not that hard to activate. And I honestly just really like it. So I figured it's a decent one-of at least. And then I play 2 copies of Volcanic Emission. Volcanic Emission is... I honestly think it's a decent card. As you can only activate one, but you can activate one of its 2 effects when activated, but you can only activate Volcanic Emission once per turn. Where you can take a volcanic monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions, but return it to the hand during the end phase. Or you can target a pyro monster on the field and inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. Or if you targeted your own monster, you inflict half the damage. So the only thing you can do is target your Volcanic Emperor and then inflict 50 points of damage. Or you can use this, summon Volcanic Emperor or Volcanic Doomfire. Mainly you want to summon Volcanic Emperor on your opponent's turn with this. Just so you can get its effect of burning 500 every time your opponent special summons a monster. But anyway, the monster though that I do want to add to this deck is the monster in the background of Volcanic Emission. I just can't remember the name of it. Because I thought it was Volcanic Doomfire. But it might be something like Volcanic Doomfire Queen or something like that. I just do not remember the name. And it's bothering me, but I want to play one copy of that card at the very least. And then to finish off the deck, at least as far as the main deck goes, I play 3 copies of Volcanic Inferno. I honestly like Volcanic Inferno as a 3-of because if I see it, then I can search for something else. Volcanic Inferno has the effect that when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, then you can banish a pyro monster from your graveyard to then inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Then if you banish a volcanic monster, you can by its effect, then you can also negate that effect. And then during your opponent's end phase, you can target up to 2 of your banished volcanic monsters, put them on the bottom of the deck in any order, which I like that part because it just lets you keep recycling your scatter shots and volcanic shells. And then the other part is you can only use 1 Volcanic Inferno effect per turn. Or you can only use one. You can only use each effect of Volcanic Inferno once per turn. I don't know why my mouth is not wanting to work with my brain today. So recap. If your opponent takes a monster effect, you can banish a volcanic from your graveyard to inflict 500 damage to your opponent and negate that effect. And then you can target 2 of your banished volcanics, put them on the deck in any order. And you can only use each effect once per turn. And that is it for the Volcanic main deck, which, like I said, I want to play... For now, I'm just going to call it Volcanic Doomfire Queen, because I can't remember the card's name. But it's the bigger version of Volcanic Doomfire. And honestly, I'd probably take out the 3rd Volcanic Inferno for that one. And for the extra deck, I play 1 copy numbered 60 Dagar's Timeless. This just lets you detach 2 material, to then be able to activate 1 of 3 effects that will either skip your battle phase, draw phase, or main phase 1 of your next turn. You can double the attack of a monster you control, but skip your next battle phase, which you already do that enough on your own as it is. You can draw 2 cards and discard 1, but skip your next draw phase. Or you can summon a monster from either player's graveyard, and then skip your next main phase 1. Usually I'll use this to draw 2, discard 1. Because then if I draw a scatter shot, I can discard it, inflict 500 damage, and then be able to send 2 more scatter shots, and then destroy my opponent's monsters, and inflict 1,000 damage more. Then I play 2 copies of IP Masquerena. This just here, there's only 2 of these because I needed to fill a spot, and thought, why not? But it just lets you be able to make it so that if you use it to link summon a link monster, that monster cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. And during your opponent's main phase, you can link summon as long as you use this card. And then I play 1 copy of Pentastag. That just lets you a monster you control that points to inflict piercing damage. Then I play 3 copies of Hida the Fire Charmer Ablaze. I am playing 3 copies of Hida in this deck mainly because Ash is a very popular hand trap right now. So that you can link summon this and then be able to target an opponent's Ash in their graveyard and summon it to your field. And then if it's destroyed, you just get to add any fire monster that has 1500 or less attack or my bad, 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, which, as long as I'm remembering correctly, yeah, it's any monster in your deck, or at least with my build of the deck, that lets you add any monster from your deck to your hand except for Emperor and Doomfire. Then I play 1 copy of Phoenix just to get rid of back row, 1 copy of Unicorn to to shuffle into the deck, 1 copy of Appaloosa just so I can get monster negates as it gets 800 attack for each material used for its link summoning, but it loses 800 attack to negate a monster effect, not once per turn. However, it is once per chain. Then I play 1 copy of Staryuja Skuldred. That's if you use 4 different monsters to make it, you get to draw 4 cards and put 3 at the bottom of your deck in any order. If you use 3 or more, you can summon a monster from your hand, and if you use 2 or more, you just get to make it so that any monster summoned to a zone it points to gains 300 attack and defense. You mainly want to use it just for its 4 monsters. Then I also play 1 copy of Borreload Borreload Dragon. Don't know why thinking Savage Dragon, but Borreload just makes so you can target a monster, it loses 500 attack in defense. Then if it battles a monster, you can take control of that monster, but at the end phase of the next turn, you send it to the graveyard. And it cannot be targeted with monster effects either. And then I play 1 copy of Unchained Abomination, 1 copy of Topologic Bomber Dragon, and 1 copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Abramax. Unchained Abomination I honestly really like in this deck, in particular just because it has 3 effects that you can use to destroy things. Which, if a monster is destroyed by battle, destroy 1 card on the field. If a card on the field is destroyed by card effect, except by the effect of Unchained Abomination, destroy 1 card. And then during the end phase, destroy a card. This card is honestly one of my favorite monsters to make with IP Masquerena. And considering all the destruction effects that this deck has, combining with burning, I honestly just think Unchained Abomination is really fun in this deck. And then Bomber Dragon, I like using when I give my opponent a bunch of bomb tokens, as I can summon a bomb token to a zone it points to, and then trigger its effect, destroy every monster in the main monster zones, which all bomb tokens will be summoned to. And then if Topologic Bomber Dragon is able to destroy a monster in battle, your opponent takes damage equal to that monster's original attack. And then Abramax is another monster I like making with IP Masquerena, where you can make it so that it can't be destroyed by card effects, it can't be targeted, and then if it battles a monster special summon from the extra deck, it gains attack equal to that monster's attack when it battles. And if I remember correctly, your opponent can't attack anything other than Abramax. But that is it for my volcanic deck profile. If you have any ideas what you can do to improve the deck, any ideas of decks I can see being made in the future, or decks I can see face each other, feel free to comment down below. And if you also know the name of the third volcanic boss monster that I entirely forgot about, feel free to comment that down below too. I would greatly appreciate it. And thanks for watching.